Hey everybody, this is Nicholas with Bowen Digital Arts, and I'm going to be showing you today a utility that I made called easing functions, and what it is and why you want to use it. Easing functions are a common thing with a lot of different types of tools, and this one is just one that's built for TouchDesigner. So I'm just going to jump right into it here and show you what it is and how it works. So we're actually going to start with just a quick 3D setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tube. Then we're going to hook that tube up to a geometry. You, of course, create a render for your texture output. I'm going to use a Fong for our material and a camera. I'll attach the Fong to the geo, make that the material. And then instead of actually adding a light, I'm going to use the emit. We're going to give it this teal color. And then I'm going to use this rim light and just crank that rim light up a bit. And then we do this here. And then I'm also on the detail of the tube. I'm going to turn on the end caps so that we have a little tube here with the top on it. And I'm going to turn the rim light down just a little bit until, there we go. So that works. So we have a tube, okay? Zoom that out just a little bit more. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to animate the height of the tube with a timer. So let's say, yeah, you just want your tube to, over a span of, let's say, 2 seconds, we're gonna have it animate from a height of 1 to a height of 2. So we can go to the outputs here on the timer. We can turn off ready and done. So all we need is the timer fraction. Remember, you got to reinitialize it. So go ahead and hit initialize. Then we will add a math. And this can make it so that as that timer fraction ticks up from 0 to 1, then we, instead of wanting it to go from 0 to 1, we want it to go from 1 to 2. So the from range will stay at 0 to 1, and the to range will go from 1 to 2. Then we add a null. And then we'll come over here to the geometry, and we'll set the Y scale with that null. And then, so if I use this timer here, we'll also go ahead and I'm going to make a keyboard in, and we will just bind that keyboard in to start on the timer. And now, whenever I hit the 1 key, we're just going to see that tube grow up to that 2. Let's give it a little bit. There we go. Yep. So each time I hit that, it's just going to linearly go up from 1 to 2. Nothing too exciting there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to use the easing functions. So what you do is you go into your components. If you've already added the easing functions to your palette, you'll have it here wherever you have your components. And then I'm just going to create an easing function. And it's going to give you, it's just got 2 different options. It's got the easing type, and then it's got the easing length. So the easing length is going to be basically the length of this waveform, so it's defaulted to 640. And then it's got all these different types of waveforms in it, and these are our easing functions. So I'm going to set this to the last one on the list, this ease out bounce, because this one's a lot of fun. And then the way that you use this is actually very similar, but you set up a timer, and then what you want to do is create a lookup chop. And then you're going to set the easing function to the second input, and you're going to set the timer um, without the math attached to it, so just the straight timer, to the index, the first parameter. Then we're going to go ahead and move this to our math. We need to disconnect that first wire. Oh, okay. So yeah, we just need to move these down here and then just replace that connection there. Okay. And now what you'll see when I hit the 1 key will be a lot different. Oh. Got my wires crossed a little there. So we just need to rebind this here because the value name changed. There we go. There's the bounce we're looking for. So now it's actually not going to move in that kind of linear fashion as before. And if I actually even show you on a trail chop, you'll even be able to better see this. So if I grab so this first one is going to be your index of just the timer. And then this lookup, you'll see what it looks like when it's eased. So very similar to that waveform you see here. And you can also see how the timer fraction, it's just a linear, just kind of like a straight line. And then of course now we can mess with this a little bit. So of course we can come and we can say, okay, let's see how ease out quart looks. So that's a much softer look than the kind of bounce, but it still looks a lot better than just a straight timer fraction. And yeah, so just about anywhere that you could have a value mapped to another value and you don't want it to have this kind of normal looking linear look, you could do that. So like we can even instead of using this timer, I can use a LFO, and we're trying to just go from 1 to 2, so we'll just set this to Gaussian, so it just goes from 0 to 1 and back. And then we'll be able to, and then if I put this into the index, you see it just continues that that trajectory like that. I could set it, let's see what the bounce looks like that. Kind of glitchy looking, it's going a little too fast. So if I set it to, maybe if we do the ease in and out, there you go. So a more uniform waveform on an LFO seems like it works a little bit better. The bounce doesn't look quite as good. But yeah, that's pretty much the basics here. And you can use this for all different types of stuff. Not just animating a shape. You can do different kind of like color gradient stuff. All different kinds of fun you can have with easing functions. So now I'm actually just going to go into a little bit of background on easings and how I built this tool. Up here in Seattle, we have a Seattle Creative Coders group that is not just TouchDesigner developers, but developers of different backgrounds that make this different types of interactive artworks. And when I showed some of my animated shapes and things that I had been building in TouchDesigner, I was given the suggestion to add some easing to the individual animations. And I started by just using sort of like some lags and filters. But I quickly realized that wasn't really giving me the same effect. And then so one of my friends from the meetup, Sabine, Art by Sabine on Instagram, sent me this website, easings.net. And you can actually go through all of these and see a little about them. So we've got ease in, bounce, objects in real life don't just start and stop instantly. We almost never have a constant speed. It actually goes in a little bit of how this works. The library is both CSS and JavaScript, I guess even TypeScript. So what the math functions for this bounce looks like is it actually has like an individual math function that's corresponding to it. So I have all these. There's all these different math functions here, and so I got to thinking. I was like, okay, well, if these math functions are just like a an algorithmic equation using code, then what I could do is take them from TypeScript, turn the turn them into Python functions, and then they should be able to run directly inside of TouchDesigner. And yeah, what I found was with that, um, I basically created this, and this is everything in the easings functions comp. This is the whole thing. You can go into this chop exec here is really kind of the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. But basically, what it is those same. So like here's ease in sign. If I go back to here, you can see ease in sign. Um, and then like this is the JavaScript equivalent. So if you look here in the code, this is just basically the same thing in Python instead of JavaScript. So it's really the same. See math dot cosine x times math dot pi, except they've got uppercase and it says function here and there's curly brackets. So it's just the syntactic difference, but it's basically the same code. Um, and I just went through and converted all of these, um, and it basically then is just inside this chop exec of this on value change. Basically, whenever in the component the user selects a new value, it's going to actually see which one that is and actually choose the corresponding easing function, and then take however much length that the user used has selected, and then you just basically write that to a table right here, and then what you end up with is you end up with all the different values of so 650 values as set to the length. That is basically where it would be in that frame. Then you just turn that into a chop again, or I guess yeah, you basically just turning these math equations into a waveform that you can use in a lookup chop, and that's it. That's the whole thing. Thank you so much for coming to my video here, and yeah, give it a download and make some bouncy shapes of your own. Thank you so much.